What's up? What's going on? This is Sazo from the Conservative Cipher, where we separate the truth from the narrative and try to put things in perspective. And today we're going to review um, one of my favorite channels, uh, Lapeef Network, and their panel discussing is not about the money. So let's go ahead and get into it and see what's going on. Let's do it.
You went from bringing up on your diatribe, you went from bringing up Nancy Pelosi, who is a wealthy white woman, probably with a husband who was in the top 10%, right? So you're saying, oh, she's an epitome because her husband's well off. She was able to wait, and now she went to politics late after her children were grown. She had 6 children comfortably. He was the top of whoever, hedge fund, yada, yada, yada. And then transferred it and started talking about Hispanic people who lived in a house, 6 or 7 of them, and saying how you love the Hispanics because they're the best. Then Ty brought up a fantastic point, because I'm an immigrant myself, and she's exactly correct. We was all in one house together, okay, until we figured things out and people could move out. But that's how they're able to do it. They're not able to just do it because they're living. No, they're able to do it because they're combining incomes in one house. That is how they're able to do it. So until the Black community as a whole get back to our roots, which is not to be collective and isn't to be individualistic, thinking every single person needs to have their own house, that's probably going to be a bigger issue than you saying, oh, she should stay at home.
Sorry about that, y'all. I got YouTube Premium. So I'm just sounding a different account.
Undercut education at the same time. So if she's at home and she's supposed to be teaching the kids, but she's not educated herself, because we're sitting here saying we don't care about women being educated, then she's probably not going to be teaching your child much. It's probably going to be the child in front of the iPad. So either way, it's not a good situation if we're not thinking through it. And I know that JR said that they wanted to have a real conversation, so I'd love for us to have one.
Yeah, I mean, I thought you were saying something for a second, but you got to do the math after taxes. So everything that you said, it's funny that you use some of those numbers, because I've been the $77,000 earner and I did it all by myself.
70.
Yeah, it don't matter. I've done it at 55, which was my salary when I moved to Houston, Texas. The crazy part is that every single thing that you added in, we didn't add the expense in. Your own car and own car insurance. The average car payment is $700. If you, what is it called? Finance a car, you must have full coverage. $250, $300, depending on the car. That's
definitely. My first car was insurance was $4 and change. Living in the city.
That's there. Now at $126,000, you qualify for absolutely no public assistance of any kind. Not no NCI, no nothing. I paid, and this was with a 2-child discount, $1,300 for Spanish immersion school for my children when they were young. So all that money, that $55,000 that lady is having, and we haven't even talked about her eating yet. We haven't talked about the gas in the car from the mileage to get to work. That money gone. So it's, if we really want to be honest, you're doing it on one income anyway. So
she'll be able
the one thing I will say that women have done extremely well, to the point where I think it's unquantifiable. Women decided to obsess about making money. Women used to save so much money on the behalf of the family, it wasn't funny. I'm jealous of the men now that come to work with full lunch kits made. That would save me a lot of money.
That's not a joke. Eating at home compared to actually eating out. Especially, you got to think about buying lunch every day, buying breakfast every day, and then expecting to go out on the weekends. That definitely eats up a large percent of your income, especially if you do it on 5 days out the week.
A lot of money when I was out doing work, but
Jay just hit me up in the back. True, you got it. That's all I was about to say. Yeah, true. That's all you need.
No, it's fine. I know Trigger was on the trigger, like he had to get it off, so it's totally fine. Totally fine. There was a lot of things introduced. Everybody made great points. I think Pretty, you actually did make a few points. What I do find interesting is that you make great points and allow us to kind of ruminate on it, and then you slide it all the way to the diabolical examples. Don't know why that happens, but it does. There's something around this topic which is interesting because Trigger made a point about the Mexicans, the Latinos, many immigrants who have a collective mindset and understand that anytime you're going to win a championship, you need a team to do it. I think even with the Black community, one of our biggest issues is trust, not so much economics, because we have our own economy. We produce more money as a small subset of 13% of the population than all other demographics combined. That's just fact, right?
I don't know if that's a fact. We have the highest income. I don't know that all other populations. I know we spend the most, but as far as making the most out of all demographics, I don't necessarily think that's true. That isn't true. Like as the highest household incomes amongst Black, actually they're at where we're at the bottom as Black Americans. Now, working for somebody else and helping them produce their money, that might be another, quantifiable measurement that has to be measured, but I don't necessarily know that measure. I know Samuel Jackson is one of the highest producers. If you got him in your film, but other than that, as the whole demographics, as Black people in America, no, I wouldn't say that we have the highest household income, meaning money coming into the house. That's not true.
One thing I thought about years ago is I was like, well, because Ms. Pearl kind of highlighted this thought, in my mind. If we are transitioning to early ages of marriage, what would be wrong with the woman and the man at their economical level figuring out how to compile their income where either one or the other's income is saved for 5 years pre-kid? And you would need all of these other government assistance. You would need all of this other situations to occur. What happens sometimes is that I think, and I'm going to pick on the women for a moment. I think women tend to focus on the worst case scenario without trying to figure out how we can literally compile a plan. Like we're very.
All right. Well, let me just address that real quick. What I've heard in the conservative arena is this: if and I think if Black people was to stick to this method, it would be very productive. One thing is graduate high school. I think at this level, it would be. At this time, it would be either graduate. Once you graduate high school, get a trade, or go to college and pick a necessary major. And then another thing is don't have no children before you get married, right? You don't have any children before you get married. You graduate high school. Those two things. Graduate high school, don't have any kids before you get married. There's another third thing. Don't have any kids before you get married, and have kids before you get married, graduate high school. Oh, keep a full-time job. If you do those three things, graduate high school or college with a trade, don't have any kids before you get married, and keep a full-time job, you will be more than capable to live anywhere. Take care of yourself. If you have a partner, married, at this point, by the time you get married, because you're going to have a marriage before you actually have kids, where most people do it backwards. They have kids before they get married. They have kids before they graduate high school, before they get a credible degree. So if you take your time, you graduate high school, go to college, or get a mastering in a necessary trade, right? And keep a full-time job, you're going to be successful in America. I promise you that. Black, white, yellow, green, orange, purple, you will be successful in America. I don't think it's really that difficult.
Very smart people modern day. Even if you don't have to make 90, 100, $200,000 to live in this country and do it well, you have to be strategic. And sometimes I think we have our group of people, maybe even women, maybe even men, want to go from zero to having it all with no planning, no strategy.
Period.
That just is not how that works. Most of us come from broken homes. Most of us come from lacking any like lineage, or like you said, Nancy Pelosi, she may have had a wealth. I haven't researched the lady, but numbers are numbers. That's why I like my boy Willie too. If you were graduating college as a young lady, let's say you make your 38,000, 40,000, and you just so happen to find a young man who makes 50,000, 60,000. What would be wrong with you stacking your income for 5 years and living off of his for 5 years? That would create economic growth.
I wouldn't do that. I'm not gonna do that to nobody I'm not married to. Period. That's what I'm saying. You can't have any children before you get married. You go to college, you graduate college, you meet your college sweetheart. She probably live with her family. You live with your family, and you work until you get out of college. Once you get out of college, in college you have a mentorship and you have internship. So if you're doing a mentorship and an internship in college, once you get out, a job is pretty much guaranteed, especially if you've been interning at the company for, 3-4 years. Usually when you get out of college, you have a position at that school. And let's say you go to school for engineering, you go to school for business, you go to school for engineering, business, you get your 4-year degree. You can be in school and pay for your education through school. Now, if you want to live a life of leisure and traveling and have money and all those things, you want to live like a city life, then I would say, yeah, of course, graduate college or pursue a trade, and to avoid the crazy expenses, don't have the children yet, but definitely do not take care of nobody that you're not married to, and definitely don't let them live off of you for 5 years when you don't have the commitment, because they can up and leave, and you will suffer the consequences, because there wouldn't be any benefit once they leave, because you're not in a committed relationship. There's no contractual agreement to say that, hey, I took care of you for 5 years. There's nothing invested because they're not paying for anything, so they're not signing a mortgage with you. So yeah, they can just up and leave you. Now, if you have a marriage, you have a committed marriage, and the worst thing could be you could pay for her education, she get a job, a high-paying job, and leave you high and dry. I've seen it happen. So definitely, I think that's the strategy there. Don't have any children before you graduate school. Get an education, whether it be college or a profession, trade, and don't have no kids before you finish your education. Make that a priority. Talk about 17, 18 years old. You should be going straight to college. Boom. Straight to get your trade. So by the time you're 20, 21, 22, you could be making entry level pay at, a law firm. Think about it.
In any equation, you could invest, you can strategize pre-kid, but that's not what happens. And the issue is that I think our community wants to live like the Joneses and don't know no Joneses. You just want to graduate to doing everything.
Right.
That's not how that works. Every position in life is going to require some level of sacrifice, some level of planning. And until we get past the emotional side of this thing, until we can figure out how to really trust each other, because what those families do have, they don't always like each other. They don't always get along, but they have a goal. We don't have that. Our issue is we get bent out of shape because somebody want to listen to the TV too loud, or somebody eat somebody's snacks, and now I can't talk to that person.
But let me say this. I think the immigrant situation is different because, usually a lot of times those people, immigrants aren't they don't reside in the country, so they have to come and come into the country and put themselves into position to do those things, to be able to go to school, to get a job, full-time job, who's paying entry level. When you have been in the country since you're a child, let's say since you've been in the country since 5th grade, right? Even if you immigrated from another country, you came in the country in the 5th grade. Your parents supposed to already have that mentality set for you. Listen, don't have any children before you graduate school. Keep a full-time job. As soon as you're eligible to start working, you can get a job, right? A part-time job, or you could be a full-time student. If you're going to have a part-time job, you should be going straight to a trade school. It should be furthering your education some way, somehow. And do not have any children before you complete your education. Education being what, 4 years, 8 years? If you complete 8 years of, you get your graduates, you get your masters, your money's gone. Your money's up, not gone. Your money's up. You get your master's degree and you get your master's degree in certain fields. Come on, you're gonna be paid. You're gonna be paid if you get your master's degree in business. You get an MBA. Just think about it. That's just 4 years of college. 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. By the time you're 25, you have your MBA. You think about it. It makes complete sense. Now you're talking 100 and change. With a bachelor's, you can get 100 and change, depending on if you did your internship and you had a mentor in college, because there's a lot of mentors who coach you, coach your career path, your educational path to your career path in school. It's completely possible. That's the type of mentality that we should be installing in the next generation. You're going to college, you're not going to college for no nonsense degree. You're going for something serious that is necessary. Once you get in school, you're going to have a mentorship and an internship. As your parent, don't even worry about the finances when it comes to your college, because that's my responsibility. See what I'm saying?
Little trivial, stupid crap. The community needs to grow up and do better, because it's really just a numbers game, and it's not going to get no cheaper.
And it's also that message is not being pushed. That's not a narrative that is being, taught to the next generation. If so many outside influences are influencing the minds of young adults today. So many things that's not necessary, especially what she was talking about right now. Petty arguments, petty disagreements are destroying relationships, as well as influence. This bias influence. We have to buy. We have to keep up with the Joneses. We have to spend unnecessarily. Like I said, Black people are the biggest spenders in this country. Also has the lowest household income in this country. So it has to make sense.
And they're not going to regress on the prices. So we need to figure something out. And I'll land.
I said that the majority of people are living above their means, and then there's pushback saying that's because you can't say that because cost of living is so high. Cost of living is why people are living above their means. Those two things go hand in hand. The one is the why, the other is the what. They are related. If cost of living wasn't so high, fewer people would be living above their means. And that just goes to say that, like Trigger's point, some people want a $2,000 apartment. Everybody wants to live in a high rise. And it's not, the Black people don't have a It's not an issue about. It's not an issue of simply not having community. It's just that in large, Black people are the most financially illiterate group of people in America, and we refuse to sacrifice things. Like we say, well, kids need this. No, kids don't need to go on trips. Kids don't need things. Kids want things, and we prioritize our needs and wants as equally. Excuse me, women tend to. One of the things that I enjoy about these conversations is how, people, there's always someone that'll make the disparity or make the dispersion about women earning less because, whatever, like as if the wage gap hasn't been debunked already. And we understand.
Well, I kind of understand that, there are disparities, but I wouldn't say that it's specifically just women that's living above their means. Me personally, I'm a man. I know a lot of times I like sneakers. Probably got 100 pair of sneakers. That's definitely above my means. So I wouldn't just say it's specifically a woman thing. And another, if you factor in the matter that men's things are usually more expensive than women's. Like a pair of jeans for men is usually like $100. If you're not going, if Levi's. Yeah, my apologies, y'all. I get what they're saying. Men and women definitely have expenses, and we definitely tend, as Black people, we spend the most. That's just what it is. As of right now, definitely, not to say we're financially illiterate, I would say more financially careless when it comes to the group economics. But definitely, I think to resolve this issue would be basic three things to start there. One, don't have children before you get married. Two, have an education, graduate high school. Definitely graduate high school, then graduate college. After college, if you choose not to go to college, you definitely become a master of a trade, right? And three, keep a full-time job. If we apply those three things specifically as strategy, I think that would definitely change what's going on, especially economically when it comes to Black people on a world stage. Because most other demographics, a lot of times they do practice group economics, but a lot of those situations come as far as immigrants. They do come from a foreign country, and they have to usually live together in the same household. But once they do live together in the same household, a lot of cultures practice those three things. First thing that they do pursue is education. Education. Once that is accomplished, and they go for the biggest positions: doctors, lawyers, engineers. Nothing, no type of social justice degree, none of that. Doctors, lawyers, engineers. Those are the major pursuit of nursing. Those are major degrees that's pursued once coming to the country. Why? Because those fields produce high income, right? So if you go to college, you're gonna get a mentor. You're gonna do an internship and prepare yourself for a career when you get out of college. But this video is getting a little long, so I'm gonna have to wrap it up. My name once again, Sazo from the Conservative Cipher. Don't forget to like, share, comment. Leave a comment. Tell me how you feel about it. If you have any questions, concerns, leave a comment. And I'll see you on the next vid. All right? Peace and blessings.